I think we'll begin the program. My name is Brian Ulmer. I'm from the class of '83 and live here in Saskatoon. And it's my duty this morning to moderate the morning session, but also to give a few housekeeping items for everyone. To start off first, I'll start outside and work in. The bathrooms are over there in the other room. Number two, the coffee breaks will be just next door, as you are aware. And just to remind you, this will be the room where we have our Friday night reception and dinner on Friday night. Because this is a CPD activity, we have to make sure that you fill out your forms and hand them in at the back where the evaluations will be collected. That's very, very important to maintain our CPD status. I want to take this time. We have a lot of students in the entire College of Medicine working with us here today. I just want to, I know they're outside and they're still involved with registration, but there's about 15 of them that are going to be around the entire time of the conference and from all parts of health sciences. So let's just take this time to thank them very much. They're doing a really, really good job. I know they probably won't even hear this. There is a board that is just beside the registration desk on the way into the coffee room that has little details about each of the Thursday night party locations. And I'm sorry to hear that ours, we have to take an SUV. I saw Karen says there's a little water from the river coming over the entry road, but we'll make it through. But there is a board there that has little green pieces of paper that have details about your individual Thursday night parties. The important thing about that Thursday or tonight's get-together is that some class photos are taken, and if one can delegate a member from your group to hang on to those with your camera, and then we can get them sent to us and post them and get them prepared for you. I think that pretty well sums up the housekeeping details. At this time, I'd like to ask our acting dean, Dr. Lou Quacher. It just seems we're in meetings left, right, and center, but this is nice because this is a nice time to not only bring words of welcome, but also to introduce our first guest lecturer in terms of the Claire and Frank Gertler lecture. Dr. Quacher.
Thank you, Brian. As you notice, this is much nicer meetings in some ways than the ones that we've been having this year trying to restructure the college, but I think it's an important meeting and an exciting meeting. I'm looking forward to the activities of the next couple of days. We got some excellent speakers from our alumni and others, the Gertler lectures from outside, of course, but we'll talk about that person in a minute. So what we'd like to do is hope you take advantage of your time in Saskatoon. And some of you haven't been back for a while. You'll notice immediately the traffic. I've been here since 1980, and I think it's exponentially grown in the last 8 or 9 years as the economy's boomed and the population has flowed into Saskatoon and surrounding areas. The traffic has increased drastically, and if you haven't been here in a few years, you're going to be shocked. It'll take about twice as long as it used to. I know the terminology I used to say back in the early 90s was you could drive around Saskatoon and back through the middle in 20 minutes. You can't do that now by any stretch of the imagination. So the city's growing. We got new buildings on campus, and I hope many of you can take opportunity to meet with me and other people involved with the college on Saturday morning in one of our new academic health sciences buildings and talk about the restructuring of the college if you're interested in that particular point in time. I'd like to thank MD Management for their sponsorship for this conference, and you'll hear more from them in lunch today. College wishes to continue to support the plans of the Alumni Association to expand their connection with alumni all over the country and indeed the world. This is one of the reasons we have hosted more than 20 alumni events in major cities since 2008. Please join us if you possibly can when we visit your city or location in the future, and help us to develop relationships between you and our students that are graduating here and doing residency training there, and in your community. They're important contacts to keep up. We'd like to have some of them if they wish to come back to Saskatoon, and I think even though you may want to keep them there, we'd like you to be a little altruistic and send them back to Saskatoon if you could, and to Saskatchewan. So my best wishes for the successful next couple days. You'll have meetings tonight with your colleagues in your classes, and I hope you enjoy that. The reunions are also fun. Bring everyone up to date on what you've been doing in the last X number of years, depending on since you met together the last time. So this is really an exciting time, and I hope you take advantage of our Saskatchewan summer. So with those introductory comments, then I'd like to get on with the business of today, which is in the first thing this morning is the 9th annual Frank and Clara Gertner Lecture in Medicine. Healthy doctors, healthy patients, the emerging scope of physician health in Canada. I'd like to first preface, before I introduce Anita Chakravarti, who will introduce our guest speaker, give you some idea about the Gertner Lecture. This is the 9th lecture. It was established, obviously, 9 years ago by Claire, in honor of Claire and Frank Gertner, by Dr. Menard M. Gertner, class of 1940, and was named for both his parents. It is both an expression of his renowned cardiologist's belief in the future of his alma mater and a demonstration of his sense of community with the province of his birth. Though Dr. Gertner now lives in New York City for many, many years, he maintains a deep personal connection to his roots in Saskatchewan. And I know that the previous Dean Albrecht met with him several times in the last 10 years while he was Dean, and established a very personal, close personal working relationship with him. And my conversations with Bill about that were always that he was impressed with this individual, and obviously he sees Bernard has a deep touch with Saskatchewan and its community. Bernard credits the University of Saskatchewan for giving him a start in his life. Gave him an education, and importantly to him, a job to finance his education. My notes say that he earned 30 cents an hour for 10 hours and 6 days a week. It's a little less than we get nowadays for doing stuff, but probably was a fair amount of money back in the 1940s. He says, my years here academically were wonderful. That's the reason I wanted to do something for the university, and is the reason he has endowed this lectureship in the College of Medicine in loving memory of his parents, Clara and Frank Gertner. This is a highlight lecture for this conference. He grew up in Saskatchewan, graduated from Bedford Road Collegiate, and then to the U of S MD Arts program in 1936. As you remember, until the early 1950s, physicians who wanted to get an MD in Saskatchewan took 2 years of arts and science and then transferred to Manitoba largely for continuation of medical education. He played football and hockey at the U of S. He worked his way through school, on-campus work. He worked at Early's Farm and Garden, and they're still around even though they're now on, brain just very froze. I go there twice a week, so I should know where they're at. I know where they're at, but I can't remember the street anymore. They moved from the old building downtown Saskatoon. If you remember back in those days, they had actually a grain elevator down in the center of the city, and when I got here in 1980, it was quite unusual to see a grain elevator in the middle of the city, but that's been torn down. They've moved out to wherever they're at right now in the stages. Huh? Lorne Avenue. Thank you, Burton. I'm glad I moved he's my physician, and he realizes he's been doing geriatric medicine for many, many years, and I'm glad to prove that I'm moving into his practice at a year-to-year basis. He spent a year in the Army before going on to a master's degree in physiology at McGill, graduating in 1949. He went on to do his residency in cardiology in Massachusetts. After time in Harvard with Dr. Paul White, his wife Anna, a concert pianist, convinced him to move to New York. While at Harvard, Dr. Gertner wrote a book with Dr. White called Coronary Heart Disease, a multidisciplinary study, which was reviewed in the Journal of Medicine in 1994 during its 40th anniversary year of production. He received his DSc from the New York University Medical Center, from which he was awarded the Gallatin Award in 1958. His other highlights include working with Nobel Prize laureates Zavaro Okoa and Dr. David Balson and Dr. Max A. Woodbury. With Dr. Woodbury, he wrote a paper on the mathematical predictions of heart disease years before the well-known Farmington heart study. So we honor his contribution, and the lecture today in honor of his parents will be introduced to you by Anita Chakravarty. She is our star and our advocate for physician wellness in Saskatchewan, and I'm pleased to have her come up. She's class of 83, 82. So come on up, Anita, and introduce our guest lecturer.